What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the Sports Talk on Tap podcast. We're here. You can find daily videos, mainly Monday through Friday, covering the NFL. We've been coming at you with a lot of NFL content, but hey, we're having a second episode today where we're going to, preview some basketball because, even though the NFL season is underway, week 2 starts tonight. If you haven't already, make sure to go check out our preview video for the game tonight. But basketball season's quietly approaching. We got training camp starting later this upcoming, month in September. Preseason basketball coming soon. So, I figured why don't we do a little Western Conference power ranking where it's clearly the more deeper conference of the two and just kind of give, you know, all the rosters are set for the most part. Give, my predictions for how I think the Western Conference regular season standings will play out. Later, we'll do playoff predictions. But right now, East and West. I believe we already did East in a video a couple weeks ago, but I'll make sure to recap that. And now, but the Western Conference, this is a lot of fun just because a lot of these teams are super stacked. There's a lot of depth. It seems to only seems to be getting better each off season. And if Giannis came over, that would have been a whole different thing. But for now, I think he's going to remain in Milwaukee. I mean, but you never know because guys get traded, right before training camp. Like as a Timberwolves fan, my boy Cat, Big Bodega went to New York, and we got DiVincenzo and Randall literally like 2 days before training camp started. So I'm not ruling out any surprises, but for now, I assume most of these rosters are set. And obviously, if a big trade happens, we'll make sure to talk about it and see the impact. But with that being said, we're going to start 15-1, work our way up. And with that being said, the team I have finishing in last place this upcoming season is the Utah Jazz. I just think, they haven't been the best team. And I think part of the thank gosh I was able to get that drag. I was so confused for a sec. I think part of the reason is, they're clearly rebuilding still. They let guys like John Collins go, Jordan Clarkson, and now they're just starting a youth movement, drafting Ace Bailey, an intriguing prospect from Rutgers. You bring in Walter Clayton Jr., the champion from Florida. That was just a bucket getter. Unfortunately, had to beat my Houston Cougars in the national championship. But you know what happens? He was a stud for Florida, 1 seed. He hit some crazy game winners, it felt like, and he was just a beast all season for him. And it'll be interesting to see how his game translates to the NBA. I'm not sure how it will, but I'm intrigued by him. He's definitely a bucket getter. And you still have Lauri Markkanen, who didn't have the best season last year, but has shown he can be efficient scorer, and Walker Kessler that had a great rookie season. But it's just kind of a really good defender, but can't really provide much else. And hasn't really built off his rookie season, but still is a solid player. But overall, this team, they're in a youth movement, rebuilding. Clearly, they're not contending, and they haven't been for a while. With that being said, my number 14 team is unfortunately the New Orleans Pelicans. And for me, the Pelicans are just a big question mark. Zion, when he's healthy, is good, but he's never healthy. They brought in Jordan Poole, who was actually pretty efficient with the Wizards last year, but still is kind of, just a guy that can score. The defense is still, a question mark. Jeremiah Fears, another guy, a little bit of a smaller frame from Oklahoma, but definitely a bucket getter. Derek Queen, that was a beast at Maryland as a freshman. But for mainly, all these guys are bringing in some youth. Trey Murphy is a guy I like, very great offensive, can just go get it kind of bucket guy. But for me, what I never can assume Zion will stay healthy. And there's just a lot of question marks like Poole fitting in with this team. How good can Fears be at his size? I think he'll still be very good, but, it's going to take a while just to develop. Same with Derek Queen, was just a freshman last year at Maryland. So there's going to go through youth movement, and this West is just so good that they've constantly been dropping off. They were the 8th seed at one point, got swept last year, and now they were injured a lot, but there's just a lack of continuity on the team and just something I don't trust about that. Next up, 13, I have the Portland Trail Blazers. I think the best part for Blazers fans and, for every NBA fan was seeing Dame Dollar go back there. Obviously, it just didn't feel right when he left. The fit in Milwaukee never worked. Obviously, he's out for the season, but, it's just great to see him when he does come back. He'll be kind of a head coach, assistant coach this offseason. But they still brought in Drew Holiday that it was a rough ending that the last season in Boston towards the end. Couldn't really shoot like he did the beginning season, especially from the corner. But, he is still a really good defender. And I know he's getting up there, but still a very good defender. And I think Shane Sharp and mainly Scoot Henderson took a leap last year, and I think they're going to really rely on those two young guys, to keep getting. And I think Jrue Holiday is going to be the perfect mentor for them. And then obviously, they still have guys like Denny Avia that can be good. But the front court obviously lost DeAndre and Anthony Simons. So, I think they'll just be like, maybe a little feisty team, good on the defensive end, but, with Jrue Holiday coming in, but, there's still ways to go for Portland, but it will be exciting when Dame comes back just to see what this rotation looks like. Next up, my 12th seed. I have, unfortunately, the Sacramento Kings. Just a couple years ago, this team was the 3 seed, and then the next year, I believe, missed the playoffs. They made the play and lost to the Pelicans for the game for the A seed, and that was unfortunate. And then last year took an even further step, just getting smoked at home by the Warriors. It was just, or no, it was the Mavericks, just bad. I think it was like 30 points. And for me, there's just so many question marks. They trade for Levine, they brought in DeRozan, Sabonis is there. I do like Nick Clifford, the rookie that they drafted, but for me, it's just, I don't know. There's fit just doesn't seem to work. I don't really know what to expect for them. Mike Brown, I know they were technically better under head coach Doug Christie record-wise, but efficiency-wise, analytics-wise, they were actually better under Mike Brown. They obviously trade away De'Aaron Fox at the deadline. I think this is just kind of a reboot team. They'll be able to win some games with DeRozan just shooting, 30 or scoring 30 plus points, and Levine with this offense. But otherwise, still a lot of question marks. Keegan Murray hasn't really been able to build off his rookie season where he shot super efficient from 3. He's still a solid defender, but really the only defense that is provided there, and just a lot of question marks, with the Sacramento Kings. And then at the 11th spot, a team I just have missing the play-in, similar to where they were last year, is the Phoenix Suns. Phoenix Suns are officially going through rebuild. I like a lot of the decisions they made. Getting rid of Bradley Beal just off that, they just accepted it, bid it, the contract. They're eating that up. They trade away KD, the right fit. And now they have some more pieces. My biggest question is, how will Jalen Green and Booker fit? You brought in Dillon Brooks, who I think personally is a winning full player, meaningful in the regular season, can be scrappy on the defensive end, will do some dirty work. Brought in Mark Williams. I like that. They drafted Mulak, the Duke center, and then Ryan Dunn, obviously a great defender. If he can improve his offense, that'd be big. They still, for now, I believe, have Grayson Allen, one of the better three-point shooters in the league. But overall, they got some players, and I'm intriguing. You see how like Ryan Dunn and Mulak, these young guys develop. But, it's pretty much just going to be the Booker, Jalen Green show on offense. And, Booker wasn't the most efficient last year. I'm expecting that to skyrocket. But Jalen Green, has really never been efficient. I'm curious how he looks, with more offense around him, because in Houston it was literally just him and Alperen Sengun, and he did kind of need to take a lot of shots. But, I think here Booker might ease it off and he might get more efficient. We'll see, but he hasn't really proven that to me. So, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what this team looks like, because I do think Dillon Brooks could be a good spark, just on defense and, hit some shots. But also he has at points, been a shot chucker. So it'll be interesting to see how that works out for the Phoenix Suns. Next up, my 10 seeds. So the first team I have making the play-in, I'm going to go with the San Antonio Spurs. I think they're ready to take that next step, with Wemby coming back fully healthy. Stephon Castle had a great rookie season, looking to build off of that. De'Aaron Fox coming into the mix for a full season for some continuity. Devin Vassell is going to be able to score the ball. I am curious how Dylan Harper fits in, in this rotation with Castle and Fox, but, he can still be, provide some buckets for his team. And then a guy like Carter Bryant that can be a shutdown defender and eventually, improve his shot as time goes along. This team made a lot of great moves. Obviously, it kind of stinks losing Chris Paul, but he was a good veteran experience there for him. Played all 82 games. I think definitely helped out Stephon Castle. But I think a guy like De'Aaron Fox that, can shoot. Hopefully he starts attacking more again, like his earlier days in Sacramento. I'll be excited to see this team. And, they're going to be one of the most fun teams. But, it's still going to take time because this roster is super young. Wemby did miss the second half of the season, but I'm still very intrigued by this roster nonetheless. Next up, the 9 seed. I do have the Memphis Grizzlies. The Memphis Grizzlies, first half of the year, we're at like one of the top 4 seeds, I think even at the 2 seed near February, and then it all kind of came apart. Part of it was injuries, losing guys like Jalen Wells at the end of the year, John Morant just kind of in and out of the lineup. But entering the year, they will have Jalen Wells back, who is a stud, in my opinion. Could have won Rookie of the Year. I loved him that much just as a defender. Could hit down some shots. They still have Jaren Jackson Jr. They bring in Ty Jerome, who was a 6th Man of the Year candidate in Cleveland. I love that move. And KCP, who's a solid defender and hopefully can find his 3-point shot again, because it was awesome with Denver. It was a disaster last year, which contributed to the Magic having one of the worst offenses I've seen in a while. But still, Zach Edey was a consistent star for them last year, played pretty well, expecting him to continue his leap. But, just the way they fired Taylor Jenkins, while being like the 5th seed, they kind of collapsed, get swept by the Thunder. Obviously, the Thunder are really good, NBA champions, but it was just a disappointing end. And I'm not really sure like how they're going to go into next year. Obviously, they're sticking with Tomas as their head coach. I think the offense may get better, but just the inconsistencies. Ja's always injured. Jaren Jackson Jr. could get banged up. I don't know. It's just kind of, weird vibes in Memphis. I still think they have the talent to compete for a high playing spot, maybe the playoffs, but for now, I have them at the 9th seed. Next up, at my 8th seed, I got the Dallas Mavericks. I think when Kyrie comes back, this team is going to be really scary. And he should be back, I believe, in like February or something, coming off that torn ACL. But obviously, Nico Harrison gets super lucky getting the first overall pick in Cooper Flag, who's a generational talent. You still have AD there. That's a stud when he's in, always top 10 MVP votes. PJ Washington can be consistent. They brought in D'Lo to kind of just be that scoring plug while Kyrie's out, which I don't mind. Obviously, he's a shot chucker, not really a winning full player, but can at least do some scoring. I'm expecting Derek Lively to take another step. He had kind of not disappointing second year, but just injured, because his first year in that playoff run, he was super helpful. I mean, firsthand, I remember in the Western Conference Series, he didn't miss a shot. Great defender, shot blocker. So I'm excited to see this front court. I think they're going to be one of the best. And obviously, Cooper Flag is going to be the highlight for them. And then when Kyrie comes back, this team could be sneaky playoffs for, one of these top seeds. I would not want to face them. Dallas could be scary. And like I said, Nico Harrison getting really bailed out after trading Luka and basically getting Cooper Flag. But, shout out Luck and shout out Nico, I guess, for that. But still, obviously, the Lakers are the winners on that side, the trade. Next up, the 7 seed, my top play-in team will be the Golden State Warriors. I loved the way Golden State ended last season. Obviously, they were like 17 or 4 and something once they got Jimmy Butler, Curry, and Green together. But my biggest concern is just the depth of this roster. The Kuminga situation still hasn't been figured out. I mean, he was going off in the Timberwolves series, but the money he wants is just going to be tough. He never really has fit in with Golden State. But still, Curry, Green, Podziemski, improved as the season went on, was really solid his rookie year, kind of stunk the first half of the year, but picked up the scoring as it went on. Buddy Hield can still score the ball. And obviously they got defense with Jimmy and Green in the front court. But the depth, they lost guys like Kevon Looney. Gary Payton isn't on the team right now. They were supposed to bring in Al Horford. Not sure what's the move with that. What's the word? But also just Curry, Butler, they're going to miss games. So they're not going to be like, the highest regular season team just wins wise. That's just kind of where it is. They'll be in the play-in mix. But wouldn't surprise me if somehow they all played 60-plus games that they do get, a top 6 seed. But I'm going to bank on them, missing some time because that's just the way it is. At the 6th seed, I have the LA Clippers. The Kawhi situation is really weird. So once we learn more about that, and just kind of our boy Steve trying to get away with it, how many picks they lose or what the consequences with that. But for now, they still it's going to be interesting. They brought in Russell Westbrook that, I know his offense can be frustrating to watch it sometimes. I've been really frustrated with him. You brought in Bradley Beal, who can still be a very good, capable scorer. Chris Paul back, that can still be a playmaker. James Harden, obviously still there. Zubac had a career year last year. Nearly took the Nuggets out in 7 games. John Collins, Leonard. This team is really well coached with Tyronn Lue. They have a lot of depth. Obviously, some aging players, though, still with Westbrook, Paul, Leonard, Harden. So I kind of take into account that they're going to miss some games, maybe get off to, some slow starts, but they're still going to be a solid playoff team, similar to where they were last year with Golden State neck and neck, for the just to get out of the play-in. That last game for the play-in was insane. I kind of anticipate something similar just with health-wise. Can never trust these guys to play full season, but the depth is very good. Derrick Jones Jr., another solid piece. I'm very excited to see if they get into the playoffs healthy, what they could do. Next up, my fifth seed, I do have the Los Angeles Lakers. Luka looks like he's gotten into great shape playing basketball, so could see an MVP season from him. You obviously have LeBron, that's still one of the best scorers. They brought in Marcus Smart for some defense, DeAndre Ayton for some more scoring. They do lose DFS, though, who was pretty much their only good defender last season. So I still have some question marks about this defense, but this offense will be great. I know, JJ Redick will coach up a good scheme in the regular season. And mainly, I'm just expecting a big season from Luka on a revenge tour. I love what he can do as a playmaker, obviously just as an offense creator. And how much does LeBron play? Because surprisingly, even though the Lakers were the 3 seed, I think won 50 games last season, even though it was super neck and neck, got the 3rd seed. The Lakers had a minus rating when he was on the court. I believe also when he and Luka were on the court. So how much of an impact can LeBron be in a positive? Obviously, he's still one of the best scorers, but how can the defense around him step up? Because he is old and, he's going to be load managing throughout most of the regular season. So can the Lakers just find players to step up, role players? Can DeAndre Ayton buy into the defensive end more like he did in Phoenix? That'll be interesting to see. But overall, this Lakers team still got a lot of firepower. Going to be excited to see them this season. Next up, the 4 seed. I have my Minnesota Timberwolves. Obviously made the Western Conference Finals back-to-back years. Obviously have fallen short both times in 5 games. And we were expecting maybe a big trade. I know they were trying to go after KD, but this roster is still very good. You have Ant-Man that, is only going to get better entering his age 24 season, still very young. Rudy, one of the better defenders in the league. Julius Randle really came on at the end of last year being that 1-2 punch with Ant-Man. Naz Reid, one of the best shooters off the bench, 6-man of the year candidate. Dante DiVincenzo, also one of the best shooters. Terrence Shannon Jr., I'm really excited to see, got some playoff minutes in that Thunder series. And, one of the big question marks is just these young players. Shannon Jr., Rob Dillingham with the loss of Nickeil Alexander-Walker. These guys are going to have to play, especially Mike Conley, another year older. How will the young guys be able to step up? Maybe Johan Behringer gets some minutes. I loved what I saw in him. Kind of reminds me of a young Rudy Gobert. Spry can catch the ball, dunk. But overall, this Timberwolves team, very deep. Jay McDaniels, another great defender. And if this offense can, just get guys to consistently hit shots, it's going to be a very scary team. Always positive on my Timberwolves. I love the Timberwolves. At the 3 seed, I do have the Denver Nuggets. I mean, you start with the MVP when you talk about the Denver Nuggets because Nikola Jokic, is the best player on this earth. Jamal Murray is always consistent. I love the Cam Johnson, just a consistent guy that can knock down some shots, play some defense better than Michael Porter Jr., in my opinion, and just going to be more consistent. They brought in Jonas Valanciunas for some depth, so they're not, going to like DeAndre Ayton for minutes or having to go small ball. Aaron Gordon, still one of the best power forwards in this league. Still, a very good team. I like the additions they made. And then I believe they have Deron Holmes coming back from his injury in Dayton at some point. But still, the defense remains a little suspect for me, but this offense is going to be historically great, as always, with, a historically great player in Jokic. So I'm excited to see Denver again, and I love the additions they made to get this roster better. Christian Braun obviously took another leap in his scoring. Next up, at the 2 seed, I have the Houston Rockets. I mean, you get KD, the big scoring punch you were missing. On top of an elite defense, you add Dorian Finney-Smith, one of the better, wing defenders in the league. Amen Thompson, one of the best defenders, expecting him to take a scoring leap. Sengun, one of the best post scorers, not the most efficient. Hopefully that will increase with Durant around there. And you still got guys like Fred VanVleet, Aaron Holiday off the bench, and just a great coach in Ime Udoka. So I think this team, if KD remains healthy, they were the 2 seed last year, only got better on offense. Maybe took a little hit on defense, losing Dylan Brooks, but they brought in DFS for that. So I think they're going to be a really good team, obviously. No hot take there. And probably the least hot take of the video, for the 3rd season in a row, I will have the Oklahoma City Thunder as the 1 seed. Can't get, too fancy. The defending champs, SGA, the reigning MVP, the number 1 defense, historic defense in a while, Chet Holmgren, Isaiah Hartenstein, J-Dub, guys like Cason Wallace off the bench. Isaiah Joe can hit some shots if you need him to. Alex Caruso. Just this defense is insane. They're going to be the number 1 seed again. They're probably going to go to the NBA Finals again. I mean, this roster is just so loaded. Mark Daigneault is a great coach. But overall, yeah, it's going to be a very exciting season. Just the West, once again, got so much firepower out. It seems to be getting better each year, which kind of frustrates me as a Timberwolves fan. I'm hoping in the next couple of years they can actually relocate if they bring, a basketball team to Las Vegas or something, and, we can get out of there and go to the East and then play, some of my, rival teams more. But with that being said, let me know what you guys think of my predictions. Where would you rate it out of 10? What do you agree, disagree with? What teams were I too high or too low on? I always love to, debate you guys in the comment section. But with that being said, as always, if you like basketball content, football content, make sure to like and subscribe because we're going to be here covering it all season. But with that being said, as always, thank you for watching. Peace.